Grazie al setup tecnico, quindi per cominciare. Sempre. Tanto anche se non va, un applauso se lo becca lo stesso. Ok. Seconda domanda di rito. Esatto, anzi, quindi, no second question. Let's switch back to English because there are some non-Italian people in the crowd, I guess, right?
And on YouTube as well.
And on YouTube. Mamma mia, ma veramente si vede. What a difference that this man make. Welcome, I see lots of new faces. Right? Who's the first timer here? Dai, Cesare. Okay, wow, plenty of people. It's exciting. I will dry you with the usual Python introduction and PyData introduction, but a bit less regret compared to the other times. Then I would say I'm actually legally justified. I think we can start. How about like the Ethernet and the connection and the Ether? That's great. Okay, we stood up. Perfect. Welcome once again, everybody, tonight. Welcome to the next this PyData event. We need to work a bit on cues, but we have plenty of time to do that. Let's get started a bit with the introduction before we go to the really meaty bits. Since there are also new people, I would like to tell you a couple of things about PyData. But first, actually, let's talk about the host. Sorry, I'm really bad at PowerPointing. I'm Luca. I work for Extreme, which has been acquired by Team System. So I'm legally obliged to tell you a couple of things about Team System, who's also wonderfully and graciously hosting us tonight. Marco is also working and could be the representative for Marco, but he's not my boss, so he's not like responsible for what I say. When we were in live a couple of months ago, when we were still here, I was saying, like, how many of you know a bit about like a company, like a small Italian company, a successful company, Bending Spoons? Okay. The idea behind Team System is kind of like that, minus the firing people. Okay. So basically, Team System is a company that builds products for enterprises and professional users, such as notai, commercialisti, small and medium enterprises, building software for you to help you manage with the invoicing, with the payment slips, payments, employee management services, and all the stuff like that, plus AI. Which doesn't do maybe a really faithful job of representing what it does, but it's still like a thriving ecosystem made up of products and acquisition of other smaller companies. It counts 6,000 employees? 5,000, okay, I got the wrong figures. Okay, whatever, so like in the 3 digits, with 1 billion and actually 100 million euros of revenue last year, with up to, or a bit more than 400 million in profits. With like half of the people working on research and development. Was it a figure like that? 1,000. Okay, so like a pretty sizable chunk of the company. He's the data guy, right? He's the head of data, so he knows the figure too. Doing research and development. The company is hiring. You won't find here right now in this moment people with job posting up, but they're Irene and Virginia. They're so nice, super nice. Feel free to hit them up if you're looking for opportunities or just want to know a bit more about the employee side and the culture of the company there. They're also super keen on hosting us, and we're really glad, that jokes aside, to be here yet again, once again, one more time in Team System. Taking off my Team System hat, let's take back the PyData one. What's PyData? We are a local section of a much, much bigger non-profit organization funded by the same guy who created Jupyter Anaconda, NumPy, or contributed to those, and also like this non-profit organization, NGO, that is called NumFocus, that supports a series of fundraising and events and conferences to promote open source libraries, open data in general in Python. And not only that, it's called PyData, but it's actually more general about doing open science in any kind of programming language. In short, compared to your regular meetup, of course, we strive to be a trampoline or like a springboard for you to go there and experience everything that happens in the network, but also we have a code of conduct that could be summarized as don't be a jerk, please. Pretty please. We value diversity, we value inclusion. That's the main pillar behind all of this, which means, of course, being nice, saying hello to the newcomers, and be kind towards each other. I'm sorry, I'm buying a bit of time because I see from like the notification system there are still people coming from downstairs, so I'm trying to buy time for them. be kind to others, and keep in mind that these also manifest as I was saying, to be like a springboard for people who want to take up opportunities and come up on stage, for example, in the future to talk about what they found out and what they did to promote and foster open science, open data, open source, etc. Or I just want to plenty of us towards which we are extremely grateful, and this is only for the PyData part. We're also hosting the Python Milano side. So we are missing out on some other partners of which we are super proud and grateful about. We're also proud to our sponsor that enable us to do podcasts, for example. Cesare and Marco are there, but also the Vision Lab was sponsored by the equipment that we're using to record people and being available on YouTube. And finally, we can get to the juicy bits. Tonight, we wanted to try something a bit different. We have already tried to do some panels, Irene out there. Oh, by the way, Irene is over there. She's the HR representative, so feel free to hit her up. We tried to do something a bit different. We've already tried to do the panel, and it got like quite a bit of a success, so we thought, well, why not resuscitating it a bit? And Milano, we wanted to have a different profile in terms of speakers. And I'm super excited and grateful to feature tonight 3 incredible guests. So just let's say welcome to Alberto, Marco, and Parvaneh, who are tonight represent, like, have an incredible long career, and they will tell you a bit more about it in data science. So just to get started, let's give some applause. All of them have like a decade long, even more experience in data science, data management, and all the fancy stuff that we do as part of a job. And the goal for tonight is to explore and discuss like the challenges they have nowadays. Not really in terms of the technical stuff, maybe yes, architectural choices, how you manage team, how you deal with the change that has been happening, like generative AI, how do you upskill people, how you manage delivering projects. So this is the general overarching theme for tonight. And we were really excited to feature them precisely because some of them cover, like, their competencies kind of overlap. But maybe some of them cover, like, their competencies kind of overlap. But maybe they can tell us.
Welcome to our offices.
Hi everyone, this is Parvaneh. Well, I am coming from the computer engineering background, and in my career I have worked as a data scientist in several consulting companies. And currently I'm leading AI customers across the world. Like specifically I'm working selling tours, transfers, also to the group which is called to be here with you.
If you want to give some contribution to the, conversation, just raise your hand. There will be our members of the PyData team that will spot you, keep a spot, and maybe pass around the microphone. This will be the fun part. Maybe we can dance and just run around throughout the whole room. So, replying to a tweet by somebody from Y Combinator talking about agency. We've talked a lot about the 10x engineer, especially when ChatGPT came out. And why precisely 10x would be like the outcome of the talk, maybe 9x, maybe even just 2x would be just enough. But what I liked about this post of his, and I think would be like a great starter for our conversation, is that maybe it's not really about like the amount, mostly about how we pulled through. And maybe what happened in generative AI is that with the appearance of coding agents, writing code, the cost of writing code is like dropped to, I wouldn't say 0, but pretty close to that. But still, there are so many aspects of our job that do not require code. And this is where I think agency plays a major role that is, I would say, like made it become even more important than it was before. And by agency, that's what like Karpati was saying, we mean it like the capability of doing stuff, of acting, of being reactive, actually proactive rather than reactive, and be able to push through and achieve and do stuff. And he also claims that it is much better than intelligence as
for the company. If you had no clear ideas, also before AI agents, you still will not be able to deliver anything meaningful. So, in my opinion, AI agents are just accelerating the importance of clarity. That's my point, of technical leadership as well. So let's say with AI agents, we're able to do many more mistakes at scale. So we can spend a ton of time, a ton of money, by the way, because AI agents are not free, to do stuff that is not useful to anyone. So it's, yeah, I think it's an accelerator, but it doesn't change much the role of a manager to this regard.
Yeah. I think a mistake to avoid as a team leader is to assume that there are new agents, then the team automatically adopts in the best way this new tool by the end. Because in a team you have different people with different experience. You have the pioneers that if Anthropic makes an announcement yesterday evening, in the morning they've done a proof of concept, they bring to the team, hey, I want to do this. And then you have the more skeptic that I don't want to touch AI. What I do in production, it's every single line of code is something I'm really owner of, and I don't want to delegate it. So you have, and then you have people in the middle. No? So is a change of the way we work. With this, there are new tools at the end, and you have to make sure that first you bring everyone on the table. So. People who are more skeptical or more late in adopt, you make sure that do not miss tools that are powerful to them, but you have to make some adoption plan, training, also explain why you want to do this. But also you want to put some guardrails on those that are too enthusiastic and also set the right expectation. Like Alberto said, these are tools that makes things fast. If you have bad design, then you make faster bad software, no? So that's, you have to take care of also the people you work with.
Well, to complement what the others said, to be a little bit more practical in our company, we push somehow, but also some people, as it was explained, are more eager to try this kind of thing. Some people know, but we are focusing a lot now on the productivity, which is a bit. You have to define what does it mean productivity when you're a coder, right? Is it like writing more codes is more productive? No. The quality of the code, maybe the cycle time. So these are the things that we are taking into consideration, but we have already made some tools available which are approved from the company perspective, such as GitHub Copilot, for example, Kira, which is a developer like an IDE that you can use to develop, plan, and do the implementation. We have Amazon Q, so there are several tools available to the people. So of course, some people are less motivated. Normally, I found senior people are a bit more skeptical to use this kind of tools because they are really, I'm not saying, I don't want to say this, but they're somehow see this as their own capability that they don't want to delegate to someone else. They're proud of their capabilities. But I saw that people were more open-minded, such as maybe a kind of less experienced developer. They rely on this kind of coding assistant tools, and they find it really helping. Instead of asking the other colleagues or searching hours on the internet, it helped them to reach like to the result that they wanted. We have also, for example, a tool for merge request. So when you're doing sending the merge request, it automatically is scanning all of the code. It gives you the points that you can improve. Of course, you should understand also what is the good suggestion and what is not important. So it's not like that you have to auto-accept whatever it is giving you. And also for generation of the use cases of the testing. So of course, this is more augmentation of you as the coder, us as the coder we have to do, but it is already improving some productivity. And the question is nowadays that we are having how we can make this scalable, like to make the work more efficient. And this is something that we have to understand because there are different fragmentations in terms of experiments. Some people would like to use other tools. Some people don't like the current tools that we are using. But at the end, we are focusing on how to define an agentic approach in the development in order to make everyone more efficient and more productive. And I think there is a long journey still ahead.
Before we move on to clarity, which was one of the points, Alberto, that really resonated with me, I wanted to touch briefly something that came up while you were all talking, which is how are you as managers, A, using those tools in your work, and B, finding the time to explore? Because one of the themes that I find that is kind of recurring is not putting too many breaks to the people experimenting with it, and at the same time encouraging people that are a bit, I wouldn't say skeptical, but maybe like not really keen to using those tools or finding the time or carving out the time to try those themselves. So how do you find the time to experiment? How do you manage like the freedom that people have to try out these new things? And also how you use those tools, and maybe to give an example to the people, or in which way did they affect you? Maybe Parvaneh, you can start since you were last.
Okay, the hardest question comes.
Yes.
Well, personally, I use mostly cloud at the moment. Well, Copilot, just to include it as the tool, as it is integrated already in our systems. I use it to find like the summary of the meetings, the documents that I was searching for, because there are a lot of messages, emails here and there, so it's not easy to find everything that I want. So it helps me first for the information discovery, and also summarization on the emails. Sometimes I have used it. In terms of the practical, like technical tools, unfortunately, I don't have that much time to focus on the development. Maybe I do the check on the merge requests from time to time, but I'm not active on the development yet. Not yet anymore.
Sorry, what do you mean when you say Copilot? You mean like Microsoft Copilot or
Yes.
GitHub Copilot? Okay, okay.
Yeah, because this is an approved tool from the company,
Okay.
and it is already integrated in all of our ecosystems. So we quite use it a lot, especially on sensitive data. When I would like to scan, for example, CVs of the like candidates, when I have an opening in order to hire. There are a lot of CVs coming, like normally we're working with the contractors. So what I was trying to do is creating an agent which can read the job description, get the CVs as the input, and find me the most relevant CV. But the problem was like I had to give a lot of context, you know. It was maybe by sending, we are doing the technical assignment as well. So when I was sharing the technical assignment, from AI perspective, everything was perfect. While the points that I wanted to deep dive was different, so I had to do a lot of back and forth, explaining, providing context to get the information that I wanted from it. So it was more losing the time for me instead of getting it useful. But I think you should put the time anyway to experiment. Like I try at least 2 hours in a week to focus on the things which are new coming to the market, because we know AI is changing every day. We have a new news every day. So I think that saving that time, both for myself and for the team, is important. So we are having this culture of dedicating 2 hours to the learning. Whatever you consider, it's important, but pushing also the team to focus on exploring new tools, because else you never have the time, right?
Insightful.
Answer to the second part of your question about how to engage people in using this tool. What we have done in my team is to make some decisions, like for example, a data engineer and team system. We have chosen a set of tools, like the companies should, like GitHub Copilots, and then based on the ecosystem of tools that we use, cloud system, Terraform, etc., we have a set of recommended tools to enrich the context of your workspace, like how to have an NCP server to extend your documentation of architecture guidelines, etc., or how to work with Databricks, Terraform, etc. So we have a set of tools that we have as a recommendation. Then we have a mentoring program of a senior engineer that makes recurrent pairings with junior ones to make sure the way they work with these tools is the best one. This is something you don't want to do in plenary sessions, but maybe one-on-one, so that you can also answer to the apps. And the third part is metrics. So we have some KPIs that's anonymized, it's not on personal level, about what is the rate of adoption on active daily users of these tools. And this is something we look to make sure if there is some unexpected increase or drop, is also that also give you a pace of what you are doing on the adoption.
Well, if I may add to what Parvaneh and Marco said, I will tell you my personal experience is that I end up working more than before because I already work 8, 9, 10 hours, whatever is needed. Then I go home and I experiment a little bit, because I think when you are a manager, you don't have that much time actually to experiment at work. If you are a manager of a team, if you are a manager of managers, you have a ton of stuff to do, to be honest. Manage the stakeholders, manage the team. But I feel that's very, very important for me to experiment and try new tools. And it's the way also for me to take some rust off. Because the thing is, when you become a manager, become a leader, inevitably you lose some technical skills, inevitably. You don't do coding all the time. You lose at least a little bit. And by using tools, can be Cloud Code, can be something else, also coding assistants, not agents, you manage to get some of your skills back, because you realize that you have the right mindset. You can develop your own side project, for instance, and it's a way also to be more credible to the team and to take better decisions as a manager. Because the big risk, in my opinion, is that on one end you have team members that are very, very fast in adopting new tools, but they don't have the company vision at all. On the other end, you have managers that live in their own world, let's say, very far from reality, very far from the technical advancements. And I think our goal, probably the three of us, is to be a little like a middle layer, let's say, that understand the company really well, but doesn't lose contact with the technical aspects. So for me, it's a big accelerator. The main problem is really the time, because I realize that I have to find time for this.
Okay. Wow.
Can I add something?
Absolutely.
Because what you said really resonates with me, that even if we try to find the time, like even the 2 hours that I say, it's really hard to find the time. But I think each of us has its own personal project, side hustle, which is helping you anyway to understand what is in the market, because we are really in the mode of delivery, and the team normally is not big, and you have to deliver as soon as possible. The deadline was yesterday. So the team sometimes doesn't have the time to experiment, even if we insist them. So I think for the leaders, it's really important to take that time and include it in their vision. Because if you don't have that technicality going forward, you're going to lose your strategic value. Because yes, a lot of stakeholders, the business, they're really hyped on what AI can do, so they want to do everything, but practicality matters as well. So if you don't have that, if you lose your technicality going forward, you're going to be in a not a strong position anymore.
Wow, that was a lot, and I think this brings us to the right time to talk about what Alberto was starting to say and came up right now about like clarity in building and execution. I don't have the quote actually right now, but one of the founders of Open Code, and I switch also to Armin Ronacher's blog post. He is the founder of Flask, and his work as founding engineer at Sentry. He's like one of the most important, like oldest, more seasoned Pythonistas on the ground, and really experienced programmer working a lot with developer tools, coding agent tools. He's part of what I call like the Vienna Mafia or the Vienna Trio. The trio is made up of like Armin, Mario Zechner, who's the Pi, the developer of Pi, which is a coding agent, and also I think the one that people know best. I forgot Pete Steinberger, who is the founder, like the creator of OpenClaw, right? OpenClaw. I lost track of all their names. And is now working in OpenAI. And the three of them kept working a lot with coding agent in the last, since at least more than 1 year. And they kind of parted ways, not on bad terms, of course, but they took different pathways. But all of them have been really involved and have been writing and shaping the way the Twitter bubble thinks of AI agents. And he's saying something about, along the same lines about what I was saying about before, about the cost of writing code, that ties really well with clarity. And ties with also something that the founder of Open Code, which is yet another coding agent tool that is out there. And I can summarize it into this. As you were saying, Alberto, nothing really changed. We still need clarity in execution. As I think Parvaneh, or maybe you, Marco, were saying, we still need the vision, to pursue the vision of the company, have it in mind, to be like a middleman between what the stakeholder want and what we can implement. So nothing really changed. And vibe coding, or just jump, is basically the same equivalent as jumping straight to the code without thinking about it. And I would like you to maybe talk a bit about how you try to like spread this culture? How do you help people with clarity, like to have like a clear sight, like people that work on this stuff? How do you help them focus on the goal and focus on building what matters? How you, let's say, help them be closer to, like not be like overridden by the hype. One of the things that I realized using those tools, like coding agents, is that it kind of brought me a bit closer to the management side of doing things, because I started reviewing more code, and I started noticing I could find more time to be deliberate about the stuff that I was implementing. I was putting way more time into writing prompts, and so it became much easier for me to sit down and discuss with my manager on the definition of done of the task, because I realized that if that was clear, I could just copy-paste the Jira ticket or just use the MCP that I had and say, hey, this is the ticket, implement it. Did you find this kind of change happening? Did you find that these tools help your team bridge the gap that was there in terms of vision clarity? Or did you find that it made them diverge a bit because they just want to write tab, tab, tab?
I answer.
Yes.
I think it's still up to the manager. I mean, that's our main task. With all this noise around our community, there is the risk that every day there is a distraction for the team and a switch on priority. On 1 week you want on something, then there are some external interruption. So for me, there are two important things that we have to achieve. First is focus on some goal and avoid that we switch too frequently on what we are doing. And the second is explain the team why we are doing. So to give you an example, there is something that I'm not automating, and people that work with me often complain with me. We have in the team one big Excel file where every month someone on the team, like 10 people, I ask them to enter and to manually add a number to this Excel. Each sheet has a KPI. So for example, how many our active users, what is our percentage of failure. This is something that of course you can automatize, but I accept the complaint by my teammates and ask them to do manually, because every month I want to do this action, to type the number that understand why we are doing this. That is a KPI. That makes us understand why we are doing. For example, we work in a platform team that serve internal customers, which are domain teams, product teams, data engineers, and we build tools that has to be usable. So for example, we monitor KPIs like adoption, active monthly users, number of features developed by teams. So we are really, my goal is really to make sure that people understand why we do something and the best ways to have a number that explain a progress toward that goal. And the second is to avoid switch continuous, because in our world, technology is changing very fast, and so you may have interruptions every day. And so we have a routine that is not new. We work in Scrum with Sprint, and we have a quarterly plan. So a couple of days ago, we met with the team in a room. We decide what to do for the next 3 months, key objective, and this is something we stick for the next 3 months. If there is a new tool, we ignore it for 3 months. Of course, there are exceptions, but at least for 3 months, we achieve something, and it's something we commit to achieve in this time frame. 3 months is a good time frame. It's not too large, not too short. That's how we do it.
Well, in our case, it's a little bit different because we are working really closely with product teams. So normally for an AI project, we already have an assigned product person, and normally sometimes the unclarity is coming from the product people, that they're focusing maybe on the solution, like sometimes. We want to do, yes, sometimes. We would like to use this agentic system, or we are interested to use generative AI to create an assistant, like conversational AI. So sometimes I have to sit with them to understand what they want to solve. Normally, like after a couple of conversations, you understand the problem is not the technology, but the problem is not defining the problem that you want to solve. So after a clarifying what it is needed to be developed, I try to make sure that the KPIs and the success metrics is also getting defined early. Else, it's easy to lose the sight of what you would like to help and what you want to resolve. So to give you an example, like recently, like last Friday, we have launched a semantic search on our website, so user can write the natural query in order to find the most relevant experiences. So in terms of, let's say, the feature per se, it's not something complicated. It's like a basic, not exactly even generative. It's a retrievable system using embeddings, vector store, and so on. But it took us like 3 or 4 months to reach to this stage. We had a couple of conversations with different people, created a product team, so everything was clear and specified from the first time, from the first step. So I think normally it depends on the setup of the teams. Like in your case that, Marco, you're having a technical, really platform team, which is, you're having different type of stakeholders. I think your objective is different. My team is focusing a lot on the delivering AI products. So we are focusing a lot on the having a good connection with the product people in order to clarify everything. And not focusing on the technology and leave it up to us in order to decide about that.
Well, I think there are like different cases. One thing is obviously developing and deploying an AI feature or an AI product, and another thing is using AI in the way you work. If I think to this specific case, I think back on your point on clarity, does it amplifies clarity or not? I think AI amplifies like the organization, and the organization dysfunctions. So if the company is not working the right way, if a team is not working the right way, AI is not going to bring clarity in any way or form. In my opinion, it's just a multiplier. On the other end, if the team is working, it's a big accelerator. And my approach also before GenAI tools and GenAI advancements of the last 3 years has been that of specializing teams. So in order to work effectively with a commercial team, you need some specialization. So you need data scientists, data engineers, machine learning engineers that understand a little bit, or more than a little bit, the needs of that specific company function. So once you start having real projects that have a real impact on the company, where many colleagues rely on, you need to specialize people, and in this way you get the clarity. And you get the clarity and the alignment, let's say. Then with AI, you go faster. That's my approach.
A quick yes or no question then. Do you think that the fact that developers now have to write prompts made them think more of what they write, think more in terms of like what they want to achieve? Does this help clarity? Does writing help clarity? Let's just put it this way. You can also say no, it's okay, I won't tell you the team.
Depends on the project.
Okay.
Depends on the person, right? No,
Okay.
I think it's writing in general helps in bringing clarity in general. Also writing anything. So yeah, I think it depends a lot on the developer. It's very hard to say black or white, yes or no. Some people are forced to think a little bit more on what they do instead of just jumping into the code. I don't know you.
Yeah, I think my answer is no. I mean, if you write a prompt like dictating code, then there's no difference.
But still, I think it gets you some effort to define what you want. At least if you want to have a good quality thing, you have to put more time and effort to create the prompt, else the output is going to be not valuable as well. So for me, yes, it's helping, but not in the way that you are writing the code, because when you're writing the code, you are more in the problem-solving situation that you may lose your focus. But yeah, you're focusing on the solution as well, but maybe you're forgetting the whole picture. While when you're doing the prompting, you have to explain the whole picture, the smaller details, the correlations. So you have to, yes, spend more time to think about it, but it's not the same as problem-solving.
Very clear. So I have actually 3 more points, but before jumping into those, I would like maybe to open up like the floor for question from the crowd, and to make this a bit more engaging, maybe something touchy. Oh yes, indeed. Okay, 2 people raising hands. Okay, this is gonna be fun. Okay. Guarda, neanche veramente amazing. Cioè, come se i miei modelli avessero questo sistema.
Okay, I will ask kind of the opposite question that he asked. So, like, I will start from a basic sentence. So, the AI is making senior accelerating in their job, but a junior much more fragile. So, the opposite question, do you think that AI is really making fragile knowledge since you can over-rely on these tools instead of thinking by yourself and solving this kind of problem?
Shall I start?
And moreover, how do you avoid this kind of situation?
It's a big problem. In my opinion, it's really a big problem. Experienced people that know their stuff, that have worked hands-on, that know the domain, accelerate. They can deliver a lot of stuff. Junior people, I think, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to deeply understand what you're doing. And deeply understanding goes a little bit in the different direction than using an agent and just prompting. Also because you have to troubleshoot sometimes stuff. So I share the same worry. I don't have a solution, but I agree that smart seniors can really have a benefit that is huge.
I don't agree. Okay. I have a... I'm joking.
So you say you don't agree?
I don't agree. I mean, my point of view is that what makes a senior, even before AI, senior? I think is someone which want to go deeper and understand the internals of how things work. Before AI, a junior could try to do something. If it doesn't work, instead of asking AI, would ask to the colleague. No? This is an approach which is slower than today because you have AI. Or the junior could try to study harder, understand how things work, and then if you repeat this for months and years, then I think this is the approach and the attitude that makes you senior. So with the AI, it's like a junior which has a teammate, more senior, which is AI, that is too fast, so maybe he has to be less lazy. I mean, there is a higher effort to make the switch and try to study how things work. So, of course, there is this higher gap in terms of laziness. But at the end, you still need the attitude to go deeper, study. And this is still, there was this attitude that also was before AI, no? I mean, do all juniors become senior before AI by default with years? I think no.
Before Perry speaks, yes. I want to reply on this point because this is.
Sorry, I was looking at you, but actually, she was making the question.
Maybe this is a bit more to do with the definition of seniority as a whole. But while I do agree with you on one side, saying that technical depth, like technical understanding, technical, let's just say excellent, just to cut it short, is a necessary condition. It's not a sufficient one to be senior. And I'm now realizing, being my 4th year of work experience, which is not a lot, especially compared to yours, I'm now starting to realize that seniority is brought by or comes with like clarity or disambiguation, the ability to build what matters rather than just build something that's technically correct. So I was wondering what you felt, how you resonate, if that resonates with you or not.
Yeah, but the question was more like if today is harder, not being junior. Okay. I tried to simplify it a little bit, no?
Yeah, it's like AI tends to make you less deep because you don't have to put effort to resolve that bug, but you can just in 1 minute resolve it.
It's a higher temptation, not to avoid going deeper. Yeah, it's harder, but still, I think. I mean. Okay. It's not too... Yeah, I didn't want to... Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it will change the way we learn, I think. The speed of learn changes.
Non gli piace il microfono, Marco.
Ma no, mi ha detto che non serve tenerlo vicino.
Ah, davvero? Non lo so. Non serve? Ah,
Okay. So
I agree with you because if you do co-vibing with some of these LLMs, it totally depends on what you ask. And if as a junior you don't know what to ask, because you don't have that vision yet, because being senior is not just about writing more codes or implementing something correctly, because it needs also vision to see how you would like to create a system which can work in long term. You can create something small which can work well in short term, but as a long term, is it going to work as well? Even as a junior, you're not thinking about this kind of things unless that you're senior and you have experience in different situations that you have built failed systems. So it helps you to understand how you can plan and develop something which is more sustainable, which is reducing the technical debt risk. I don't think you can, at least at this stage, I don't think that you can get this from LLMs or any agent AI code, which makes juniors still to stay junior because they're not relying a lot on the senior people because they think they're good enough. So it makes them to have less interactions and connection with senior people. So I think it's creating an environment that they don't have a lot to experiment.
There was another someone in queue. Well,
I'll have to change my question because it was actually similar to that one. So how are you dealing with organizational change of AI in your companies? So, for example, in Campari, we've got PLCs and various AI apps pretty much appearing all over the place, almost uncontrollably at this point. And the organization is not as fast as the technology anymore. It's not where before tech was kind of keeping up to date with the processes. Now it's kind of pushing on both the people and process side of the company, and it's having a big impact. Are you finding the same thing, that the technology, because of the speed we're able to iterate with AI, is starting to impact on how the company itself is run? Does that make sense?
Well, I can go first if you don't mind. Well, in our company, it will focus on the business stakeholder as the people that we are interacting a lot. It depends on the maturity of them. Some of them are trusting already AI because they had the experience of working with us, because they know what is the value. And it is coming all from the topic that we discussed so far, which is defining the clarity, right? So what you want to achieve with an AI. But some stakeholders are not trusting because of the lack of context, which is normal, or they don't trust because they don't know the technology, they haven't experienced with any AI products, so they don't have enough context to understand what we are doing. So they're resisting. And in this kind of cases, you should be a little bit more conservative in order to define some POCs, but always focusing on what matters most. What is their pain points, what they want to resolve, and if AI can be a good solution, because it doesn't mean that AI can always save your a process which is not working well or it is not designed well. We have some teams that are still suffering from digitalization. They're still suffering from having thousands of Excel files here and there in order to manage their processes. So it totally depends on the type of stakeholder. But I think if you focus on the value definition of how AI can help and improve your daily works and your whole processes, it can help a lot, at least on the people to trust the technology. Let's use this as
the organizational change, I think, depends a lot on the also industry you work at. We work in a tech industry, so the impact in our industry is huge. And if you are in this industry and your top management does not have a clear vision of what's happening, a clear strategy, I think you should change company, because that's really serious. For example, today, if you want to grow in a tech company in a new market or a new country, today you have to also update your considerations. No, maybe you want to acquire a company, or maybe now the effort of building a new product is much lower than before. So you may also change your strategy. Maybe I can build this stuff by myself maybe the make or buy analysis is really changing today. And this is more on the strategy. Then on the process, I think also there are some updates because the iteration cycles are shorter, no? Because maybe before you would say, okay, the designer makes a design, product owner, okay, develop this, see you in 2 weeks. Then now maybe see you in 2 hours, no? So if the communication loop is faster in the company, then also teams should change, no? Maybe you want to have more end-to-end teams that work even more closely to adapt quicker.
And this is actually one of the pet themes of Marco. You worked a lot, spoken a lot about team topologies. So did you find any, I don't know, eminent research or emerging research or literature about how teams are changing, or empirical studies about how teams have changed, given that communication, as you said, is faster? Did you find that you feel like you needed to adapt your organization structure to accommodate this change?
Yeah, I don't want to speak too much in general. I work more daily on data engineering, analytics, and I've seen, even before AI, but with the AI, the things are getting much faster, the decrease of level of complexity, for example, to develop data engineering stuff. So like 10 years ago, to develop some big data thing, you have to be a cloud era expert, know Hadoop. Now there is less complexity, first because of cloud solutions, second also because AI assistant. Then this makes for non-highly specialized task, even you can have a lower level of specialization, and then you can have on some domains people that work more on the end-to-end. So maybe you want to remove the complexity of having specialized data engineers, analytics engineer, or maybe engineers, that depends. I think it's something you have to monitor regularly based on the tools you use on your task, and then you may want to shuffle things often. And today we're going back to the team topologies analogy. We try to have a platform team that builds easier tools for domain teams, and then streamline to teams that work on end-to-end without the external dependency. That's really our vision for team organization.
Well, I think answering a bit your question and also from the audience, I think organizations have a big inertia. So technology moves very fast, but people do not move as fast, do not change their way of working as fast, and organizations are even slower in adopting this. So I think all of the companies have big AI programs, but if you think about it, ChatGPT was released in November 2022. So it's been more than 3 years. And I don't know many companies that change completely their organizations due to AI. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but I don't know many large companies that completely revamped the org chart due to AI. And I think another very important aspect is that all the top management are really trying to understand how AI will impact the organization. As you know, Ethan Mollick, maybe you're familiar with this guy, speaks a lot about organization and the AI adoption. He says, even if all the AI development stopped today, we would still have 10 years to change our companies and to adopt and to change our processes and so on and so forth. And I think this is really spot on. This is really the case, because I would be a little bit challenging, but again, I don't know many companies that change their organizational charts due to AI, and I also don't know many companies, let's say at least in Italy, that can prove that they significantly improve their revenues due to AI for real, due to GenAI projects, either by improving revenues or by saving costs. I think it's something that this is not a corporate position, but it's something many companies have to realize. So we have amazing technology, but people are willing to adopt it, but not as fast to adopt it.
Casually dropping the bomb here. Yeah. Okay, no, basta.
But can challenge that because already we are launching GenAI projects. Well, mostly conversational AI project, which is helping the customer interactions because we have a lot of customers going to the destinations and of course they expect fast responses to whatever question they have. So we cannot hire like 20,000 agents, human agents to help them out because our customers are also seasonal. It's not like that we can hire them.
But I will challenge that because do you have less of the customer center that you had 1 year ago? Half of the people that you had 1 year ago, or did you double the revenue thanks to this?
We reduced, yeah.
In my opinion, the relation cause effect is somehow to be assessed.
Well, as I was saying, we have like the seasonal contracts for the human agents.
Yeah.
And due to the conversational AI assistant that we have developed for the most frequent questions. So really basic use case, but at least a good list of normal questions like when can I do the check-in in my hotel? When can I do the checkout? So these kind of generic ones. We could save up like 15 FTEs for the agents, which is in terms of like the value is around millions. And it was just for 3 markets. So now we are launching for different markets. So just coming back to the point that I think it doesn't matter if it is GenAI or classical AI or whatever we want to call it, it's coming always back to definition of the value. What you really want to solve here, right? If it is about cost reduction, I think normally everyone are really hyped out. Like what we want to do is really cool because it seems cool. Conversational AI, yes, let's put it everywhere, but if you don't design the process well enough, the customers won't get a good experience, you know, and they're not going to use a conversational AI and they're asking always to ask with a human. So you're going to put a lot over there. So there are different factors which is impacting the adaptations, like specific customers or internal processes improvement as well.
Yeah, if I could just quickly add to that to that point and to the previous point of it takes a long time for org change. I would have agreed, but we literally have changed the org like had a formalization of it today on and the reason being AI, you know, as which surprised me actually. So we're fresh from that really, but. There's 2 parts. It is changing organisations can confirm, even relatively big ones like ours. But yes, the impact on revenue remains to be seen. So I'm kind of agree with point 2, but the first point is happening maybe quicker than or at least that's the reason given as a change in significant changes in organisation. So we're maybe starting to see that happen even in relatively slower companies. I think because maybe the fear of missing out a little bit is we need to change something, and then the executive side is, you know, we need to do an org change to adapt to this new technology. It's becoming so just to kind of add to that we're actually seeing some org change pop up.
Oh, I can imagine some organizations do change. What it's really not so crystal clear to me is again the relation cause effect. So reorganizations have been done for decades, for centuries in companies. Now everything is rebranded as it's a reorganization due to AI. Could be one of the factors. Could be. Not really sure it's 100% of the question. There are companies that fire thousands of people and they say it's due to AI. Then there is no way to really assess if it's the case. There have been some cases also in the sector I work with. So.
Wow. We talked a lot about. Spero che visto che va così bene magari arrivava anche dice no? Since we mentioned the stakeholders, we've been fine from anecdotal evidence that now there's like a business mandate to put AI into anything, into maybe even my pencil. And technical people that might not have any experience with AI in general, I started to think of ways they could add magical features to their products and the products they're in charge of. And sometimes we did realize that some people were asking for features that are classical ML, as Pari was saying. But B, we found out like incredibly absurd requests. So my question to you is, since you are basically the bridge between the not executioners, no, that's an egregious mistake, people that implement the stuff and the people that have the vision that actually build the stuff, how do you manage the expectations? How do you ground like stakeholders and make them understand what AI is? Or if I can rephrase it, what are your tips and tricks to help a somebody who's not technical understand what this is all about?
If I may start, I think it's very challenging, to be honest, because, you know, when it was old school machine learning, it looked like something for specialists. It was very, very apparent that you needed to be really a specialist. So no one was questioning your choices. No one was deeply understanding what you were doing. Now everyone gets access to generative AI. Everyone, from the CEO to each of us. So they have, you know, a bit of an impression of an idea of what GenAI is. And it's partly true. But in my opinion, there is still a strong need for technical leadership, technical excellence. And it may be more difficult to manage expectations due to the fact that non-tech people have access to these tools and they may think they have a glimpse, they have an idea on what it's all about. So it's tricky. In my opinion, a healthy way to manage this is like every project. Doesn't mean if it has to be about implementing GenAI or whatever else. You need to follow some ideas, like having, you know, a clear definition of success, a clear ROI, a clear, you know, idea of investment and of the returns. So I think it goes back to properly managing innovation and properly managing projects. Then, I mean, there can be innovation for the sake of innovation. So it's perfectly fine to have a laboratory to test, but you have to be clear what you're trying to achieve. If it's a laboratory, it's one thing. If it's pure innovation, okay. Then it's just cost, and it makes sense. On the other hand, if you want to make a project, doesn't matter if it has inside AI or if it has a label AI, you need a strong business case.
Yeah, I agree. I think we lived years ago similar hype with machine learning. I had the experience of that was seen like a black box that does magic and solves any company challenge because it was machine learning. And so you also had to face this challenge of setting the good expectation to people without worrying that too much, otherwise you don't work on it, and but also not to have illusions. And I agree also with Alberto that today the difference is that AI is more in your pocket, no? So there are this thing. I think it's important to go deeper on an end-to-end analysis of what you actually want to achieve. So try to tackle it as a software engineer, no? So try to understand, okay, what do we want to achieve? What are like edge cases, so that you also hit corners and make sure that you make understand that there is complexity to handle and there is some risk linked to hallucination, etc. But still, not to worry stakeholders too much. I think you have to be transparent, but also not to worry.
Well, in my case, as I was sharing, that some stakeholders are really keen into experiment and some stakeholders are not. So when we are dealing with AI, everyone normally are hyped about, but not everyone as well. So what we try to do is understand, as also Alberto and Marco said, to understand what is the solution, not the solution, but what they want to resolve in terms of like what is the bottlenecks. And also the availability of the data is important there. First, the data and also the process. If there is not a good process there, putting any AI or any black box on top of it is not going to solve it. So we try to explain them a little bit, giving them the context, what AI can do, what AI is not possible to do, and what are the blockers. So normally they think for developing an AI project, just a data scientist is enough. But while for developing an AI product, you need a team of like back-end engineer, front-end engineer, data engineers, data analysts, product person. So they're a big team normally if you want to do a big project as well. So try to settle down a little bit their expectation by explaining what are the possibilities, what are the blockers, and understanding what they really want to solve. And providing similar examples, like as I was telling you, as we launch a semantic search for our experiences, now we are demoing it to another stakeholder that instead of experiences, they are having tours. So explaining that what a semantic search can do for experience, for a tour product, it's really easy because you already have something implemented. So they have a really practical example to see and try.
Can I have a follow-up on this? I happen to work on a chat with your data like product for a couple of internal projects, and I do see your point of saying, okay, we need to find a KPI or to try to measure, and so that everybody is grounded on the same, has the same, like on the same page on this. But one thing that I kind of struggle with is to say, hey, but we are going from basically 0 to 1 here. So there is not something, an existing solution that we can benchmark against, like the effectiveness of our solution. And so we either are doing an experiment because like a business mandates it, or we kind of have an idea of, well, this is clear, of course, like something I can ask like an agent this, and maybe the time to solve or evade this answer goes from like hours to minutes. But if you, can you actually like implement this KPI, like this more like heuristic API or more like workflowy KPI?
Not always, I mean.
So how did you tackle, like, what was like the KPI definition when you were doing like the semantic implement search into?
Yeah, well, it is easy in semantic search because you're comparing the conversion rate pre and post.
Okay.
So it's easy to understand if your conversion rate is going to improve after implementing an AI feature. Or in some cases, it's about the cost reduction, as I was telling you, like a conversational AI for customer support. We didn't hire like 15 FTEs for that market, and the result, still we had a good average of like the feedback from the customers, which was around 8. Before AI, it was around 8. So the target of the management was like, we should keep the our score high still, but also reducing the cost. So in this case, also, how many times the customer asked to talk with a human agent? So in this case, you could really translate this. But not always the KPIs are straightforward. To give you another example, like we work with a content creator team in order to automate like their writing of their experiences or editing some of the experiences content. So of course, at the beginning, there was some resistance because it seems to be that you're automating their work, so they're going to be out of the job. But it took us a little bit time to work with them. But in this case, it's really personalized. Like you're asking the content editor, how much time this content creation tool is saving you? 2 hours maybe, 3 hours? It's the same if you ask a developer, if you're using a coding agent, how much time does it save you? It's quite subjective, right? So you have to use other kind of KPIs in order to, indirect KPIs to measure the success of some of these AI projects.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I think one of the aspects also to consider is that it's more of a product way of seeing this, is that let's think about, I don't know, 30 years ago or 20 years ago when the first banks started to having mobile applications for the home banking. Sooner or later, all the banks needed to have a mobile app. And okay, I agree with Parvaneh. Sometimes it's not so straightforward to have like a very strong KPI, but at the end of the day, if you want to be on the market, you need to have this kind of product, the mobile app for the bank. Does it bring explicitly revenues? I don't know. Hard to say. Can you live without it? No, very difficult, let's say. So I think it's another aspect, but it has more to do with a product that incorporates AI features than with AI per se. So it's like another product, in my opinion. To be competitive, you need to be somehow on par. So I don't know, I'm not an expert in travel companies, but if the other companies have a conversational agent, you cannot live without it, probably.
Yeah, especially consider for travel industry, it's quite easy that you go to ChatGPT. I don't know how many times you have tried to plan your trip with ChatGPT. I have tried multiple times, maybe all of you. So it's quite easy. Like the customer is getting really used to those kind of conversational experiences, right? So you try to predict what is the customer taste or preferences is going forward in the future. So right now, if you are having a box for search, then you have to select the date, for example, for buying a ticket, right? You have to find the origin of the place you're departing, the place that you want to go, the dates, number of passengers. It's a little bit getting harder and harder for me personally. I'm not saying I'm representative of the whole population, but I think people are getting used to this conversational AI assistant. So at least for some use cases, I think conversational AI can be a future, like going to the website, like right now you go to Amazon, you search for what you want, there are a list of providers with different prices, different qualities, you have to check the reviews. There are a lot of things, and by using conversational AI, we are getting lazier and lazier to get direct access to the information, right? So I think the future of even the website, as Alberto was mentioning, mobile apps, I think the future of the websites can be conversational AI agents that you just chat, you search for your product, it's suggesting what you want, but it can personalize it. So I think we should always go one step before our customers, at least in the travel industry. So of course it depends on the industry. I don't expect a banking system is working in the same as we do, but as I said, it depends on the context and the the use cases.
Maybe some more questions from the crowd.
So I want to build up a little bit on the first questions and what you said. We're going to be a little bit provocative, or maybe realist. I don't know. You tell me. So you're saying, of course, the more you get higher in your job, you become a manager, so you're more entitled to manage, to be in the between rather than being hands-on and developing stuff. But what if even the junior will lose these technical skills, right? Think about in the far, far future, 2 years, that is the far, far future now, and you want to develop a new AI framework, the new PyTorch, or a new programming language. Would you do it thinking about humans using it? Would you do it thinking about, okay, the syntax needs to be easy enough? Or would you have in mind already that you expect 99.9% of the code will be written by agents? Will just be managers in the coming futures rather than juniors?
It depends what do you mean by manager, because maybe we can be like a data analyst, but as a reviewer. So what is coming out from the agents, like a coding agents, you just have to review and validate or iterate it back to give feedback. So I think the ways of working of every role is going to change. Not everyone is becoming manager, because not all of tech people would like to be a manager and select it like manager. I mean someone which is working on the strategy, working with the stakeholder, the business people. Not everyone would like to go through that path. But I think the technicality somehow, a specialization, is going to stay, but the way that you interact with the tools is going to change. So maybe if agents are going to reach to that stage that we are just reviewing their outputs, validating, iterating, it can be a good future. Not good future, it can be a possible future. Good, we will live with, I don't know. We will see that.
I don't know what is going to happen. I mean, the software engineer traditional job will change, no? So has already changed. So if you are building the next PyTorch, then probably you will not write more than 1% of the code base, but still you will have to set up the development cycle of that framework, the specification, the definition of done that you want to have your agent to do. No? So if you want to ask the agent to make some, you still have to guide them through some decisions, best practice. So that part remains. If this is an independent job, then some other management role around it, like product ownership, or there's the same person doing it, we'll see. Maybe it depends on the attitude of people. Maybe today also you can have this, you can have different situations. You can have people which are more senior engineers, but also take part in activities that are around the product. Yeah, I'm very curious about it.
I'm also very curious about how things will turn out, but I think technical skills will still be in demand, but technical people will change. I'll make a comparison. For instance, let's talk about accounting. I don't know when they invented Excel. Let's say similar software like Excel 40 years ago. I don't know, more or less, whatever. It doesn't change much. But I think before that, people were doing accounting as well, and the Excel changed their job dramatically. Do we still have accountants? Yes, we do. We have plenty of accountants. I know many people in your companies work in finance, but not one or two people. But they have a tool that is amazing for them, and it didn't exist 50 years ago. So in my opinion, I don't know how accountants used to work 50 years ago, but I think their job will change. Developers' job will change as much as accounting changed. But still the mentality, the mindset, it's what's needed. And I'm also not sure that writing code has actually ever been the real bottleneck in our job. So it's, you spend time writing code and now it's much faster, but it's not that you spend 99% of your time coding, actually coding. So I think, yeah, the job will change.
Is your backlog empty? I mean, that's also a thing.
No, my backlog is not empty, not even close.
Yeah, but I do agree with you. If I may barge in, since maybe I dabble with open source or stuff like that, what I found is that still my role demands, I think kind of reminds me of the meme that you see around, like, do you have any technical skill? No, but I'm paid for like my sense of taste. In a way, yes, what I'm here for, what I'm paid for is not like how much I type on a keyboard, but like for the solution and the value that I bring. So it's my acquired sense of like how appropriate a solution is, made that could either be like the implementation, like of a job that could be done just like this, using, I don't know, a drop of a statement, or just like a delete of some rows instead of something else. But also in terms of what API should my system have. And still we aren't able to delegate that to AI yet, maybe. But still, like, what really matters is like the clarity that I have in designing the solution, and this only comes from my experience as being a software developer in solving problems. Maybe you can relate to that. And this kind of is what, like Armin was saying, like I'm the bottleneck, but it's all in the end a matter of accountability. It's not about the code, it's only about, like, if it's actually saying, and I quote, if we manage to push accountability upwards, it might change, but so far, how that would happen is not clear. So long as I am the one accountable for like a result or like an implementation or something, I still have the job, okay? I'm still the bottleneck. So technical analysts or accountants still need to be there because they need to sign off those budgets. It's not because you have like a calculator that they are outdated. The skill change. Maybe if you are, maybe something might change for like a call center or for a customer care. Maybe you won't have as many like people working on answering the actual question. Maybe you will have different people that actually review the conversation and stir the agent in a more appropriate way. They will have like a different profile, different set of skills, different background. Maybe they might be more upskill compared like to the average like customer care person working nowadays. I don't know, just guessing. But this brings me to like one of the points, and I've tried to make this slide go on and on for a bit. Alberto, he didn't know that, but I wanted to pull the prank on him. Alberto is super active on his blog posts, on his post all about data, and he's been talking about like lots of stuff every Saturday morning, right? No, excuse me.
Every month. Once a
Okay,
month.
okay, because they're super, like your blog posts are super detailed, so like they require a lot of effort, and maybe once a week would be too much. Mi confondo con gatti. Right, ecco, right. Esatto, okay, another like a secret monster. And just to tie out, in your blog post, you were mentioning like all the changes like in the job market and this some like discussion about skills. But something that I found maybe recent, like a couple of days afterwards, this is fairly recent, like couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, on Hacker News, was this post from this guy who's an engineering manager, and he's saying, I want to stay an engineering manager, but I would encourage you to be an individual contributor and to grow on that, because right now there's a lot of technical stuff to learn, OpenClaw, etc. And you yourselves were saying that. We need to find the time to use those tools. So maybe I would like to make the counterpoint that maybe we need even less managers now, and maybe if there is a time to invest in technical stuff, it could be now, so you don't have to forego of your like clarity and all the stuff that we talked about. But maybe there might be a bit less incentives to go into like engineering management, but more into the individual contributor stuff.
My take is no. Absolutely not. There is a very nice post on LinkedIn that I have saved in my the stuff that I keep aside. Of a guy from an individual contributor from Google. It's a post, 1 year old, more or less, 1 year old. And he said, and he tells a story of him working in Zurich with some other super smart guy hired in Google. So we're not talking of random guys, okay, random IT guys. We're talking of the top 1%, the top 0.1%. And he says that there was a time in Google when management was considered as the evil. Mm-hmm. And so you had like one manager for 50 individual contributors. So the manager was doing the old school management. He approves the vacation, he does the low-level managerial stuff. And he said that he had a lot of fun working with a lot of super bright guys and girls. But the thing is, it was like 1 year that he spent in that position. And actually, he learned a lot, had a lot of fun, a lot of ideas, but actually didn't deliver anything meaningful for the company. So I think actually engineering managers, it depends on the definition, but if it's someone that is able to coordinate people and or agents, let's say, I think they make a lot of sense. They make a lot of sense. Also, we are sort of in a bubble. All the people in this audience, we are in a bubble because we are all tech people, more or less, data people, whatever. But we are not representative of the world population or of the company population. So 90% of the population of a company, 95, is different from the people in this room. So engineering managers have a big role. That's my take. Maybe you do not agree.
No, I agree, to be honest. No, I agree 100%. I mean, I don't see really why organization would change dramatically because of the change in the tooling we have at the end. And like you were saying also, Luca, before, no? At the end, I have to bring a value to a company. Maybe I use different tools, maybe I'm faster, but I don't see. I mean, the reason of being engineering manager are like mentoring people, setting goals, in clarity. So I think this is not going to disappear. Maybe even, I mean, if things are faster, there is also higher need of setting right goals and clarity. And if you have many fast people that go in different directions, then I don't know if it helps the company.
Well, I think as Alberto, you were saying, we are in a bubble. So tech people normally like just to code. Like, what's the objective? Just people like to code, you know? Like you can. How many of you have 10 side hustles that you wanted to start and you're still coding on some of them? I think we have a lot of repository unfinished here and there, right? Which is fine. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think in a company, it's important, like the company is paying us and we have to deliver. So, or increasing the revenue or decreasing the costs. These are normally the two objectives. And I think it's really hard for tech people. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. but it's hard for tech people to focus on the product and strategic value. It's normally something that we are skeptical because we would like to code and deliver, while normally what it is valuable is understanding what we can do with technology, what we can deliver. Doesn't matter if it is AI, GenAI, agentic systems, or whatever, but focusing on the value creation for the company. And sometimes the product doesn't have that vision as well. What's possible with tech solutions, let's call it AI. So I think a good engineering manager is the one which is able to do the bridge between the two islands. And also having the technical vision to create something which is maintainable, not creating a technical debt, because it's easy to create POC normally with all of these coding agents, but I think creating something valuable, stable, which is adding value for the company is not easy.
I guess we have maybe one more question from the public. One? Just one? Okay, short one. There you go.
Hi, I wanted to tackle the topic of the whole talk from a slightly different direction. So far, we talked a lot about coding agents and how AI affects tech people writing code, and tangentially on how to implement a tech solution for customers, clients. But I also noticed that we mentioned, the speakers mentioned in several occasions that there are other uses in the company of AIs, agents, acting as helpers in some ways. Now, connecting to the idea of accountability that was mentioned before, and to the initial idea of agency, which is both ways of humans to basically identify how they will still be relevant or cope with it, depending on how you see that. But I totally see the use of coding agents, and I totally see the uses of assistance in making decisions. There were mentions on deciding which CV to vision or which email to summarize. So on this kind of things, however, I see something that is very different from what a coding agent does, in the sense that it feels to me that that might be a way in which the bottleneck is removed, because the decision is made by the LLM itself. So the accountability is at least partially removed, and the sense of agency, or the agency that the human tries to have, is kind of removed. And that is something that, to me, it is indiscriminate in a way. And the word indiscriminate is not used at random, because like recently we had OpenAI and the Pentagon working on weapons, and the concept of using AI on decisions that affect people is indiscriminate in the way that, well, Geneva Convention defines as a war crime in the kind of that things. Of course, our stakes are much lower, but I still see that the use of AI in that direction might be problematic and still might affect the way management and companies are run. So how do you see this, well, this problem?
So you say that, if I understood correctly, for coding assistance, you delegate more decisions, right?
No, not at all. I actually have a very positive view on coding assistants, the way they work. Of course, there are problems on the way junior developers might have issues learning or might not, depending on how people see this. But it's really not the point. What I'm saying that AI and LLMs are used in companies in many other ways, including ways that actually I personally would say take agency out of the people, like making decisions on which CV to read first, or which email, or which kind of order of things to do, like decisions that usually were made by people. And I'm not trying to be judgmental here, because I do understand the value of not having to decide every single thing yourself. It's really convenient. But then again, also unmanned drones are very convenient. The problem is both of them are indiscriminate, and they do raise an ethical issue for sure.
So I can go first if you want. Yeah. I question you. Do you think as human we don't have the discrimination or bias? I think we have.
I am perfectly convinced that we do, and we are accountable for it.
Yes. So normally when I want to read the CVs, it is based on the amount of energy I have for the day. If it is at the beginning of the day, I pay a lot of attention. If it is at the end of the day, I'm quite skeptical. it is not the way that I would like to work, but if I don't have enough time, I'm going to be skeptical on some of the CV reading. And I think if I have a tool which is making me to delegate this part, but having the explainability, like I selected you this CV because of this and this and that, like the type of explainability that we would expect from the ML models, right? The classical machine learning. I think that would be nice. I would appreciate it because I think as a human, we always have the biases and discriminations in our decision making. So that could potentially reduce the risk of discrimination, but of course it depends on the context that you're providing to the system as well. It can be intentional or non-intentional. But I think in some cases it can help us even to decrease the risk of biases here. But it depends on the data, how you create the system, and so on. I don't think it's possible to remove that 100%.
I think it's a very valid answer, and I think it's a similar answer that the American defense is using.
Good to know.
But I mean, let's take the example of the CV. If you are the hiring manager, from the organization point of view, you are accountable for the outcome. So if you hire the best person or the worst person, that's up to you. If you use AI or not AI, at the end there is someone that commits on main, with the developer analogy, no? At the end you are the one that say, I hire this or that. So I think the accountability remains. I mean, if you decide to delegate, it's your decision, you are responsible for it.
I think you made a very good point. That, in my opinion, it's a dysfunction if some accountability is not on someone, a person. So, like as managers, we are accountable for what the team does or what the team does not. In my opinion, there is something wrong if there is a process in the company or some action in the company that as an agent is accountable. It's a mistake in the organization. And I think it's a mistake that can exist right now because everyone is busy trying to adopt agents and so on and so forth, but they are not perfect machines, they do mistakes, and I think we have to be very, very explicit in saying that the accountability stays on persons, on people. So I think then, as Parvaneh was saying, there can be biases, but it's a bit a side topic from my perspective. I think we have to be very, very careful in not to leave some processes where at the end of the day someone says, no, it's not my fault, it's not my fault, it's the agent's fault. But it can happen also without agents in companies. So.
Well, that was a really dramatic note to end the talk on, but I think a correct one, like an ethical note. We should definitely touch that eventually. So without further ado, we'd just like to do one final round of applause for our guests. But it's a free masterclass, so I mean, what more could you ask for? But if you have any feedback, feel free to drop them on, I don't know, any page, whatever. We don't have a collection form, but we can chat and just share our ideas about how we feel about all this situation. We can close this up, say goodbye to the people like who join in the